Hello, everyone, and welcome to a very special episode of Talking Disney Magic, a show all about ranking and reviewing the biggest films in Disney and Pixar's catalog and talking about the biggest news in the House of Mouse, including Disney, Pixar, Star Wars, Marvel, and so much more. My name is Adam Bankhurst, and I'm here as always with the wonderful Vanessa. But this episode, we're not ranking and reviewing anything. We're doing something very, very special because we are able to invite my dear friends Stephanie Shuster and Danny Shuster, the publishers of WDW Magazine, DLR Magazine, and the new DCL Magazine, which is what this episode's going to be about, because they have something incredible to talk about that they're doing. Not only are they celebrating their 150th magazine, but right now that's all that's happening, but they're getting ready to launch this DCL magazine. And we thought it'd be a great idea to invite them on, talk about this, say why it's awesome that they have a Disney magazine going live because there's nothing quite like it, and just talk about their journey, how this all works and stuff. And I think it's going to be a great conversation. So, Stephanie and Danny, welcome.
Thank you so much for having us. We're really excited to be here.
It's always a pleasure, Adam, Vanessa. Thank you so much. We're big fans of the pod, and it's just great to talk to people who love Disney the same way we love Disney.
Yeah, it's really special. Stephanie, we haven't been friends for so long, even though it feels like it's been forever.
It really does, right?
My first kind of impression of Stephanie was her missing her world flights because we went to Papenburg, Germany to check out the Disney Destiny, but she missed flights and she somehow made it across the world and made it just in time. And I'll never forget when she walked in and we all cheered for her because she was there. And since then, we've had a great friendship. But yeah, it's been such a pleasure to be able to share some of these experiences with this and celebrate this with you, Stephanie.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. This has been like my lifelong dream of creating something for Disney fans like me. And it's just amazing to have such like the community after all these years still supporting us. We've been doing this since 2013. The fact that we've gone from one title to now three titles is just really great.
Stephanie and Danny, tell us a little bit about, there's three magazines. Tell us about each magazine, what makes them different from each other. Tell us a little bit about what inspired you to move from the first one and then to expand your catalog.
So let me tell you just a little, the condensed history of WDW Magazine, a Cole's Notes version. There was a website years ago, and it still exists. We still own and operate and run this website to this day. It's called Dad's Guide to WDW, and it's family-oriented advice and trip planning and all of that great stuff. And Steph got her start in the Disney sphere as a ghostwriter on Dad's Guide. And there was this idea as the Dad's Guide website grew and got more popular, hey, maybe we should come up with a product, and try and monetize and turn this in from a hobby into a business. And the idea for the product was this thing called WDW Magazine. It started as a digital edition magazine. You get it on your iPad, your tablet, whatever. And then a funny thing happened is that WDW Magazine eclipsed Dad's Guide in popularity. There was this audience out there, this market that was like, we want to read more, we want in-depth coverage, we want to learn more about Disney and maybe talk to the people responsible and get a peek behind the curtain and really dig in. We don't need the beginner tips. We want to really get into the Disney of it all. And from there, WDW Magazine sort of took off. Steph left her day job to start doing this full-time. That was what, 2015?
2015. So we started the magazine digital only in 2013. In 2015, I left my day job to do magazine and Dad's Guide and all the Disney things full time. And and people asked us for years, go to print, go to print. It's so expensive. It takes so much longer. If you make a little mistake, you can't take it back. And at that point, digital only days, we were, putting out an issue on January 31st for February 1st. And then on February 1st, we would start planning for March. Now our planning actually can start up to 18 months in advance. And almost a month before it arrives in people's mailboxes, it is at the printer. So there's some differences there that we had to work out. In 2018, we did a test of 3 issues to see if people would actually buy them because it's much more expensive than digital, of course. And they did, and they wanted more. So in 2019, we went to print full time. So we do have the digital editions still. They're identical to the print editions, but and they release at the same time. So we have both offerings now. And when we went to do DLR magazine and now DCL magazine, we're starting off the bat with both. Well, we started off the bat in 2022 with DLR magazine, right into print and digital. And when DCL magazine arrives in mailboxes in April, April, it will be print and digital.
It's such an amazing thing that you guys are doing this. So, I write for IGN.com and
Mhm.
live in the video game world a lot. And there's a magazine called Game Informer that's like a very popular magazine that had some troubles because of their ownership and they went away, but then they came back. But there is nothing like getting a magazine in your mailbox and being able to hold something in your hand with great photos, great art. And in this world that we live in that's so, TikTok and social media and things are gone like this, being able to have something like this to hold and have, it's so special. So that's why I'm so glad you guys are spearheading this because it's such an amazing thing.
Thank you, Adam. We feel very passionately about print. Like you say, we're in this digital age and a lot of things are made for quick consumption and, instant satisfaction. And the print magazine is this really unique medium that lets us tell stories, lets us go in depth. We put in the work to do the research on the history. We have our partners at Disney who arrange interviews and, contacts for us, and we can tell these stories. You can't summarize this in a 30-second reel on social media. We dedicate pages in the magazine to tell a story and provide that sort of rich level of detail and escape. And the response from our audience, they feel like you do, there is something unique about the print magazine. For those who are watching on video, we print it's an oversized, glossy publication every month. We do, big, huge, beautiful photography. This is something, part of my role at the magazine is the actual layout of each issue that goes to the printer every month. And I feel very strongly that the way we assemble the words and the photos and the layout is all part of the experience that the readers get to enjoy.
I think the layout's actually really important to each title of the magazine because we have a great team of writers and a great team of photographers, some of whom contribute to all of the titles or just one. But what we found with our audience is that the reason we have 3 magazines instead of just talking about all Disney in one of them is because people really, I'm a equal opportunity Disney fan. I love all the parks. I love all the movies. I love all the everything. But we have a lot of our readers who only want to know about Disney Cruise or Disneyland or Disney World. And we have some that want to know about 2 or 3 of those things. But in addition to the photo, the quality of the photos, the quality of the writing being consistent across all of these titles, the look and feel of each magazine is really different. And Danny has done a great job, I think, of making them have their own unique personality. For Disneyland, for DLR magazine, we have a lot more mid-century modern aesthetic and vibes. With DCL, we're going with a lot more Art Deco and nautical theme, obviously. And Disney World is kind of like more, I don't want to say it's goofy cousin, but it's more lighthearted. Like we always think back to in Disney World when they used to have like the purple, green, and yellow signs and that kind of vibe. That's like the vintage WDW we're trying to give off in the WDW magazine.
WDW is a fun place, right? Like there's so many different worlds and different themes and it gets a little kooky and crazy. And so we like to lean into that in the design as well as in the stories. But all the magazines offer something for Disney fans. And the audience was really clear, because stories overlap, right? Especially if we're talking about, say, Big Thunder Mountain, classic attraction. You find it on both coasts. So the story will touch on Disneyland and Disney World, but we really found that the audience, the Disneyland people who are local in California, they want a magazine that is cover to cover Disneyland, and then there are lots of people who, they only visit the parks in Florida, and there's always overlap and there's always mega fans who want it all. But we found that the audience really responds to the focus titles.
Yeah, and I think what's cool about focusing on the place too, and especially the magazine format lends to this, is when you get a magazine, obviously, and it's like this on the website too, but like I said, it's a lot more things going on. But there's spaces for smaller stories that wouldn't quite get the headline. Like I love how in some of the magazines you have like tips for taking photos that look like these magazines. Or there was a story I was reading about an autistic kid who started speaking because he went on Carousel of Progress. So brought me to tears because that's like I sing that song to my daughter every night, and just thinking of the magic and power that does to it. And like you wouldn't like you may not see that if that was just a story on a website. You might scroll by it or it might not get all the clicks. But having that be as you're scrolling through this and you're like, carousel progress, wait, this story is amazing, and you get into it, that's just what makes it so special. And you guys lay it out so beautifully. It's literally like going through an art museum or something where it's all so intentional and it really adds to it.
You're very kind, Adam, and I appreciate that. I want to show this is in our latest issue of Disneyland magazine. So this is a great example. Haunted Mansion. Everybody knows Haunted Mansion. You know the stories about it. You know stories about Leota tombs and all the this and the
Raleigh
that.
Crump.
This article is about the landscaping and the horticulture. And Disney recently redid the exterior queue in California to Haunted Mansion. And part of that was practical. You got to manage the crowds and make it accessible for people in wheelchairs and ECVs and all of that. But a whole bunch of it is storytelling. And, you might not know a bunch of the plants in there. They're things like carnivorous plants or poisonous plants, things that feed into the sort of spooky story thematic setting of Haunted Mansion. And we get to explore these things, and I think it's really rewarding for Disney fans.
So when you're planning, you mentioned, Stephanie, you guys start planning almost 18 months in advance. Like, tell us a little bit about that process. Like, what does that look like when you're investing all that time to figure out what makes it into the magazine and what you're going to talk about?
Absolutely. Well, of course, there's times when we know something's coming. Like we knew Galaxy's Edge was opening quite a long time before it did. Or Villain's Land is on our radar now to kind of watch and see when that's coming out so that we can plan an issue around that. But typically what happens is, so it's the start of the year now, right? It's February. In the next 4 to 6 weeks, we'll send an email out to all of our subscribers. We call them members because they're part of our community. And we'll actually ask them what they're loving, what they're not loving so much, what they want to see more of, what they'd like to see differently in the coming year. And we really do. We read every single one of those thousands of entries that we get, and we do take it into account when we're planning things. So from there, we'll go out to our team of writers and we'll say, hey, we've kind of narrowed down some topics that people really want to hear about. And it might be very specific topics. People want make more Big Thunder Mountain Railroad, or it might be people want more on villains. They want more on Marvel. They want more on food. They want more on sports. So we will kind of have narrowed down to maybe 20 or so topics for WDW Magazine and maybe 6 or 8 for DLR and a few for DCL. All of our magazines kind of have a loose theme that goes along with them. We don't call it the food issue necessarily, but a lot of the stories might be dining related in a specific issue. So we'll go out, we will then say, do you have any pitches for things that you would like to write about? And then our writers will send us ideas back that they want to work on. We'll decide which ones fit in, which ones don't. We'll let them know either way. Then we will take all of those ideas and we'll be like, okay, well, great. This will go into this November issue that's about photography. This will go into this August issue that's about magic, and we'll kind of play around with it. Then we'll see how many pages are we up to. We work with our editorial director, Tim Moore, and he drives this whole thing. His organization is off the charts incredible. We will then say, okay, well, we need 16 more pages here. We need 4 more pages here, 20 more pages here. And then our internal team will start to draft ideas, unless they've already sent in ideas like, oh, we're doing a magic issue. I have to write about this. We will then put that to bed for a while. Tim will actually make assignments for everybody who is going to have a very specific article. We try to hold about 10% of each issue back also because we have no idea what Disney is going to release in the coming year. So all of that is actually happening in the springtime for the following January to December. So it's like 8 months to 18 months kind of out.
Yeah, we try not to get too locked in to, like Steph is saying, because there's news drops and you don't.
That's the thing. How do you account for that in your plan?
Yeah, and sometimes we will have something that comes up where we're like, oh no, this just came up. This is amazing. We have to get this into this issue. And we'll find something in that issue that we can pluck out and put into another issue where it makes sense. Like, we already have it. Let's use it somewhere else, but we have to get this thing in immediately. So that is kind of the initial process. Then about 4 or 5 months before the issue arrives at your door, I think 5 months, those articles come in unless it's something that is very last minute, something like Mickey's Very Merry Christmas Party. If we're writing about that and we need something new, we will have to go to the first party of the season, turn an article around in a day, and basically send it off to the printer. But unless it's something that we're holding like that, they'll come in, they'll go through editing, proofreading, copy editing, like 3 rounds of editing, honestly, before it even goes back to Danny. And then Danny will start layout. In the meantime, Danny will have worked with our team of photographers to gather up all the photos that we need to support those stories. And then we go into a full layout process. From there, we do what we call a pre-publication meeting, which is almost like a post-mortem, but we do it before it goes to print, because what good is it going to do us after it goes to print? And we double check all the things, like if there's enough contrast between the colors, if the fonts are legible, if we think that there's a better photo sometimes to express what we're trying to tell in a story. And then that will go to another 2 rounds of proofing. And then Danny packages up those files, sends them off to the printer. And then we actually make a secondary version that's almost identical, but instead of having a little QR code, if it's telling you to go find more information on our website or to watch a video, we'll just have a little button that opens that up in the digital edition. We upload it for our digital edition where people can actually read. We upgraded that this year. People can read our digital edition as if it is magazine layout, so they can flip through, see the exact same layout as in our print edition, or they can choose an article view, which formats it more like an Apple News style feed, or they can actually listen to audio clips of each different article. So we put that all in the software. It does the magic. And then we've kind of, by mid-month, we put that to bed. So by mid-February, March will be all ready to go. And then it just all kind of goes live on March 1st and starts arriving in mailboxes around then too.
Such a fascinating process to like you said, trying to get everything in order, and you got to account for things that are going to happen. And I think it's really interesting to get a peek behind the scenes of making, a monthly issue like that. But let's talk about, let's dive into DCL magazine. Let's talk into like the big thing, because we got the foundation of what you guys do, but what's it like launching a new magazine? And has this been in the works for a long time? Why is
5
now
years.
5 years? That's great.
5 years we've been talking about this. So WDW was the first issue, was the first title that we put out. And then there was a point where Steph and I were saying, okay, we've got this process down pat. We've got a solid team in place. We're ready to expand. Here's the audience. But we wanted to be careful and considerate about this. So our first thought was, are we going to go with DLR magazine first or DCL magazine first? And I forget what actually, tipped the balance.
I'll tell you what it was. It was the pandemic. We were actually leaning towards DCL magazine first, but then because cruising was on hold for quite a long time, we were like, we don't know when it's coming back. We don't know how different it's going to be when it does. So we went with DLR.
So we went with DLR. And then again, and so then we expanded our team to compensate for that. We got that process going. And then Disney started making all these big, huge cruise announcements, talking about more ships coming online and, bringing the older ships into dry dock and revitalizing them and refurbishing them. And then we're like, okay, this is the time. We've got our process figured out. We know there's an audience that wants more Disney. So here we go. Let's get DCL magazine off the ground. Last year, we called this issue the float test. So this was published under the WDW Magazine brand. Yes, Adam, thank you. You've got your own copy. That one was published under the WDW Magazine brand. And this was our, real, is the audience there? Will people put their wallet, because it's easy to hop online and say, of course I want a Disney Cruise magazine, but, it costs money to turn on the printers and pay people, all of these things. So that was the flow test, and the flow test went great. So then we start working on the stories for this issue, and then we're looking ahead. Disney's making all these announcements, new ships coming online, and we start looking at the calendar going, okay, we want to be current and we want to stay on top of these things. So if we publish the first issue, at this point in time, will we have been on the new ship? Will we have had the opportunity to tell these stories? And then, we start playing this balancing act. There's 7 ships in the water. As of today, when we're recording this episode, can we cover all 7 ships in the first issue? Probably not. But so how do we spread that around? And, do we make it all about the Destiny, all about the newest ship? But we want to show love to the other ships in the fleet. I don't know, Adam and Vanessa, I don't know how many cruise ships you have personally been on, but they all have, so much character and fans who for various reasons, love one ship over another. And so that's how we start approaching, we know we love DCL. We know the fans love DCL and we want to talk about it and there's stories there and things to celebrate. But then it's figuring out, how do we spread that around and shine the spotlight on the different parts of the DCL experience?
With our parks magazines, we always talk about all the parks at that given resort. So our goal with DCL is to also talk about all the ships in the fleet in every single issue. And that might be big, huge features on things. And it might be, to your point earlier, Adam, it might be just like a little blurb about something in a given, maybe you just have a tiny blurb on the wonder in this issue and then a couple big features in the next issue, depending on what we're talking about. We did find out from our readers that they really love the Disney islands. So we will always feature either Castaway or Lookout in both of those. Alaska's really popular, so that is one that we will probably come back to, maybe not every issue, but time and time again. And then we also really want to talk about the onboard experience mixed with some of the port experiences that you can have, because that's something that's so unique about a Disney cruise as opposed to a parks vacation, is that you can actually get off the ship, step foot into somewhere totally new that maybe you haven't been before, and do that in a really easy way where you don't have to be unpacking your bags and packing up the kids and moving every single night to a new location. So that was really important to us. And we're also going to feature at least one story on Aulani Adventures by Disney or National Geographic expeditions in every single DCL magazine, just because that is kind of a stepping stone. A lot of people will do the parks, then they'll do the cruise, then they'll do those other Disney signature experiences. And we actually found in our surveys of our readers last year that they were very interested in those stories. So we want to not take away from the cruising, but just kind of say what could you do next, maybe?
100%. And it's such a fascinating time. Stephanie, we were so honored to be able to see this firsthand. But as Disney has announced, they're planning to have 13 ships by 2031, which is going to mean you guys are going to have a lot of content, which is wonderful.
And we didn't even know that
right?
when we set. When we set this date, we were just like, oh, great. They're gonna have the wish, the treasure, and the destiny. The time to go is now.
It's so funny. And I think it's an interesting time too for it to launch because, the Destiny just launched and we're getting the Adventure very soon, but there's not going to be like a new other ship this year until next year. Yeah. But I think you'll have time to really focus on all these ships and make that base and do all those things. And like you said, focus on what makes each of these ships special. I mean, I've only been on the Wish class. I've only done Wish, Treasure, and Destiny, but from what everyone says, the other ships have such a classic feel and a charm to them, and I think it'll be so cool to be able to celebrate that and let people kind of decide what means the most to you, and this maybe is the ship that could be for you in a sense.
People ask us all the time, what's your favorite ship or what's the best ship? That's a question that we get asked a lot, and I always say to people that my favorite Disney cruise ship is whichever one I am currently sailing on. If I really, if you ask me what my best or what my favorite ship would be, I'd want to try and make a Frankenstein ship. I'd want to pull live entertainment from this one and some of the dining from that one. And, I really like the pool setup on this ship and all of these different, but they all have so much to offer. And, like you said, the older ships do have this sort of ocean liner Art Deco aesthetic. That I think it feels grand and luxurious, but it doesn't feel old. It's not dated. It feels
timeless.
Yeah, timeless. Exactly. That's great. And then the new ships, especially the Destiny, I think is the largest departure from that ocean liner aesthetic, but it's still there. It's in the DNA. It's in the structure of the ship. But then you can, thanks to Disney, go to these fantastical worlds. You have the Marvel influence, you have Star Wars content, you get into the MCU stories and as well as the classic Disney fairy tales. And you can really just get lost in all of these incredible worlds on board the ship.
Yeah, it's 100. And I think what's also just so great about, like you said, the cruise ships are so different because they are so, especially the Destiny, they're so immersive. So I'm sure you're going to get so many great stories of, like I said, what it's like living on it, living through them and having these experiences. And I'm kind of curious, are you guys able to tease any features or stories that might be coming in this first issue that you want people to really kind of look out for?
100%. So I'm most excited. I have a story in the first issue of DCL magazine that has been in process since spring 2025. So I have a big feature on the Hercules show. This is the marquee stage show on the Destiny. But ever since Disney first announced they were going to do Hercules and they started releasing the concept art, I've been following the development of this. I reached out to our reps at Disney and I said, look, like I got to write a story about what it's like to be backstage. I love live theater. In a past life before all of this Disney stuff, I used to work in promotions for live theater. Like I love it. And, so we planted that bug and then we're following the development of Hercules in summer 2025. I got to go to Toronto, which is where Disney Cruise Line does rehearsals for the live entertainment, which was really cool. Myself and a small group of other journalists, we got to go backstage behind the scenes. We got to see the cast of Hercules doing the numbers, the rehearsal. I even got to see a tiny tease of the live entertainment they were preparing for the adventure because they were rehearsing at the same time in the same building.
Wally.
To see the Wally.
Oh, yeah. So that clip that's been circulating recently of the Wally that's coming on stage for the first time on the adventure? So I saw that in a rehearsal studio tucked away in a hidden Disney room. And it was just a stand-in puppet. Like it was made of cardboard just so that the actors, could have something to work around. And even that cardboard puppet, I was like, I was on the verge of tears.
Yeah. And it's so funny, Stephanie, we already have her book to rank and review Wally with us, which I'm just so excited about. But like I think people may take for granted how incredible these shows are on these ships. Like they are literally Broadway on sea. Like it's unbelievable how they put these together. So yeah, it was so amazing that you got to experience that and see what goes behind it. Because I don't think people like the magic of Disney obviously is the attractions, it's the shows, it's the moments, but it's the people behind the scenes and the things that are happening and how they get this to life. That's just that's everything.
100%. If you ask Disney how it all happens, they'll tell you it's magic, it's pixie dust, and that's true. That's a good answer. But it is humans, it's the hard work, it's the creative ideas, it's the hours of rehearsal, it's the individual artists and people behind the scenes who are doing it. So I was very fortunate. I got to meet some of these people. Then, of course, when we sailed on the Destiny, we saw the show, and then we had the opportunity to interview the cast, get on stage, get a closer look at the set. So I'm really proud of this Hercules piece that's going in issue 1 of DCL Magazine. It's a really comprehensive, from the concept art to the backstage rehearsal to finally premiering the show at sea. And I think the readers are really going to appreciate that journey.
Some of the other stories we have, there's another backstage one because it's about our trip to Meyer Werft, actually. So talking about how a Disney cruise ship is built from the ground up and everything that Philip taught us while we were there, and Claire, everything that we learned and saw is kind of encapsulated in that piece. We're doing something about beginning your Alaskan adventure with a sail a wave party in Vancouver as you're sailing out on the Disney Magic. We have a great piece by DCL Duo who are talking about Pulpit Rock in Norway as one of the port excursions that you can do on a Norwegian cruise. We have some history pieces like talking about the magical beginning of the launch of the Disney Magic back in the 90s. Tim, our editorial director, has a lovely piece about his first time snorkeling at Castaway and the wildlife that he saw there. It's kind of all over the place. We also have some great photos we're showing off of the Walter E. Disney suite on board the Fantasy, so people can kind of see inside that, like those very exclusive suites that we almost never get to see inside. There's a story about a beer tasting, a story about Olani, and a photo spread of all of the stern characters from the current ships that are in the water right now. We did this with chandeliers the last time, and it was like the highest rated piece on our customer survey. So we're like, okay, you like compare and contrast. So we're trying to find things that we can do visual comparisons like that in every single issue. Yeah.
It's a really, we're super excited. This has been in the works for a long time. We took the feedback after our float test issue. We refined the stories, we've refined the layout. I think this first issue of DCL Magazine is one of the best of all three of our magazine titles, it really, it is special. And I think people are really going to get a lot of enjoyment out of it.
I can't believe I forgot to say this, knowing how much you love Lion King, Adam, but we do have a feature on Pride Lands on the Destiny
great.
as well. We got to go in there with one of the Imagineers ahead of the ship actually sailing. So we got to get some really great photos. And then, of course, seeing the show, eating the food. Danny, is that your piece? Did you work on that one?
I wrote that piece, yes. Yeah. Again, I have this passion for live theater and live performance. And I also, since we started the magazine, I sort of fell into the role of restaurant reviewer, which is honestly one of the nicer gigs you can have. And so I was the perfect author for that Lion King piece. I want to show off, this is that chandelier piece that Steph was mentioning.
Oh, that's
great. Do a visual comparison of all the chandeliers on the ships. And then so in a similar vein, we're comparing the stern characters, which I think is such a fun, whimsical design element of
so uniquely Disney.
Yeah, no, Vanessa, you haven't been on a Disney cruise yet, right? Have you?
I have not. Bobby, if you're listening, it's your chance.
You got to do it. I literally, the first time Steph and I went, we hadn't even left the port. Like, the ship was still docked. You get on board and you're getting settled and situated. We hadn't even, disconnected and started sailing. And I was like, this is the best. When are we booking to come? Like, I was already having so much fun. You're going to love it instantly. I know it.
Yeah, and I'm curious, Vanessa, from someone who hasn't been on a ship yet, what would you kind of be looking for in a DCL magazine or out of a cruise ship, when you're looking for information? I'm kind of curious where your head's at, because we've been fortunate to be on that, but I'm curious your perspective.
I think it'd be fun. Danny, you were mentioning that all the different cruises, you kind of Frankenstein monster together all these different pieces, but kind of similar to the chandeliers, where it's this comparison, or the stern characters, best dining experience or best theater production, or some kind of ranking, just so you can kind of be oh, I love the theater, so I'm going to do this one, or I love this show, and so that's the best one. And not everything can be an S. Adam and I have that
we try sometimes.
Every time.
I know how much you guys love to rank and rate things.
We do. It's kind of the premise of Talking Disney Magic. Yeah. But it's helpful to know, oh, if this is what's important to me, or the thing that I'm most looking forward to, or, which things, maybe things not to miss on certain ships. Oh, I'm on this ship, and what are the 3 top things I can't miss? Or
Absolutely.
top best experiences, or best, maybe
Absolutely.
about even room placement, what rooms or what things are the best places to do
we
things.
have some opinions on
yes,
that.
Steph and I would be happy to rank the room placements. I know
what is there, 2,000 rooms? I'll rank every single one.
Yeah.
I love this.
I know what stateroom I think is S tier, and it's not just about it being a fancy suite. It's so much more about the position on the ship. Yeah.
And it's different on every ship.
What makes a room an S tier room? Is it the placement? What do you need it to be closest to? How do you decide where you want to be?
Okay, so it is different for everybody, but Danny, you can disagree if you want. I think that you'll agree with me. I do like midship, or as close to midship as we can find, because I get more seasick. So that does help. But on the Dream class ships, I love to be I love to be at the midship stairwell, one floor below the adult pool, because you can just go up and you're at Cove Cafe in 30 seconds from your room. You're at Cove Cafe. That's my number one priority. How close am I to the coffee? So that's really nice. Also, if you're getting a rainforest room pass there, Census is right there also. So you can just be 30 seconds in the rainforest room. Very nice. On the Magic class ships, I think it matters less to me on those, because they're so small. You can get everywhere in a minute or two, so especially if you're I would say mid-ship, and then mid-height on the ship would be a great spot to be, so that you can get literally anywhere in the ship in 2 minutes. The Wish class, I guess, we have sailed in the past on the aft and had a larger balcony, and I thought I would really like that, but I got very seasick at the back of the ship, so I wasn't even out on the balcony enjoying it. But on this last cruise that we did, we were on deck 11, 2 doors down from Mickey Mickey and Friends Festival of Foods, and that was so extremely convenient to get out for Pirates Night, to get out for sail away party, if you want a little snack, if you want to go to the pool. Danny does a lot of photography early in the morning and late at night when nobody else is on deck. So instead of having to like trudge through the entire ship to get up there, that's maybe an us thing, not an everybody thing.
That's a weird
But-
consideration for the kind of work that we do.
Problem.
Yeah, if you ever are on a cruise ship with me at the same time, like you will see me at all sorts of weird hours. I'll be down in the atrium at 1 a.m. because nobody else is there, and I can like lie on the floor and take beautiful photos of the chandelier without any people walking through the shot, or I'll be, up at 5 a.m. on the pool deck waiting for the sun to come up so I can get those beautiful golden light rays over the pool. I cruise a little bit differently than your average cruiser, that's for sure.
And I think if you were traveling with kids, being way closer to the kids club, if you thought that they were going to enjoy that, would be a really great option, because then if you have to take them there all the time anyway, it's not necessarily interrupting your day because it's close to your room where you're going to be anyhow.
Adam and I both have kids that are the same age or close to, and so Adam's been telling me all about the kids club experiences. And he's been taking Liam and how amazing it's been.
The kids club, honestly, and they do have open houses so the grown-ups can go and play either on their own or with their littles. But like, I would go to those clubhouses. Like, they're awesome. The Oceaneering Club and the Oceaneering Lab, like, they're so cool. And, when we go on these media sailings or when you go during open house, they keep the programming running. And, like I was in the Oceaneering Lab and T'Challa, Black Panther was there. And like, I had a great time. Like, we were talking, hanging out, like he was showing me the equipment the Wakandans have brought to the Oceaneering Lab for the kids to like learn about science and technology. It's incredible.
Yeah, it's literally one of the best spaces that I've been to, because there's like a Star Wars place and a Marvel place and a princesses with like, Rapunzel and Flynn Rider hanging out every once in a while, and an Imagineering place. It's just, they have all these little spaces that, like you said, you might not even know that they're there, but they put so much love and care to them that makes them special. And I think this is, kind of a tricky question. So we're not holding you to this, but I'm curious, like lightning round, don't even think about it. What's your favorite restaurant, lounge, and theatrical performance on cruise ships that you guys have seen?
Wait, restaurant, lounge, and theater?
Yeah.
Arundel.
Arundel is
Meridian. And I know it's not that themed, but they have the best wine list. That's important to me. That's my S tier. And Hercules.
I love Hercules. The music in that, so amazing.
The music, the dancing, like I've seen so many theatrical productions. Danny and I used to be in theater, and like I have never seen dancing like that.
Amazing.
I agree with Hercules. I am a bit biased. I feel really connected to the show. It's the newest, it's the shiniest, it's the most, but for live theater experience on the ship, Hercules is my pick. For dining, it's Animator's Palette, but specifically on the Magic class ships. They do it a little bit differently than you'll find Animator's Palette on like 4 of the 7 cruise ships, but it's a little bit different on the Magic and the Wonder. And so I specifically want that iteration of Animator's Palette. And then for lounge, I really like, Steph, what was it called? It was where I had that very fancy gin and tonic that like came in a funnel of the...
Yes, I think that was Keys.
And so that's one of the piano lounges on the Magic. In general, I do love all the piano bars. You know what? Can I edit can I change my answer to the piano bar?
Please.
Nightingales?
Nightingales.
Yeah.
I love the piano bars on all the ships have one, and I love that format of entertainment and stuff. But Nightingales is so beautiful. They've got this like bubble theme, and all the cocktails, they either come with like an ice spear or a smoke bubble,
or champagne,
or they are champagne based, and like it's just the drinks are interactive. The piano player is there doing her thing or his thing. The decor is beautifully designed. Yeah, so those are my picks.
Great choices. I love it. But yeah, that's I know I like getting that perspective, and sorry for putting you guys on the spot, but you all did such a great job. It was great.
It was our lightning round. That's what we do.
Yes, exactly. But yeah, we're getting close to kind of wrapping up this conversation, but I just want like I would love to hear from both of you kind of one more time on this really momentous moment of launching a brand new magazine, something about DCL, having 150 episodes or issues of experience. And like I said, you've seen so much since 2013 and how it's evolved, and you guys have stayed strong and have done such incredible work on keeping this print and these stories alive. So I'm just so curious, like, what are your kind of final thoughts on launching this incredible magazine to the world?
I want to express a lot of gratitude to our readers, to the members of our community. Disney is something that people connect to for different reasons, right? People share their fandom. People are parks fans, or they're fans of different movies and characters, or, different experiences. There's all kinds of avenues that somebody can connect to Disney. And what we're all about, at WDW Magazine and DLR and DCL, is we're here to celebrate whatever your fandom is. Being a Disney fan is the thing that unites us all. And whatever part of the fandom it is that you love, we're here and we want to cheer for that. And so over the years, seeing the response to our other titles, knowing that there's this audience out there that is asking for more, and that we've been able to turn this into our full-time jobs, where we get to, tell these stories and share our part of this magic and connect with like-minded people. I feel a lot of gratitude for that. And I hope that the DCL title reaches an even wider audience.
I'll echo that sentiment of gratitude and excitement. I grew up feeling very alone and isolated in my Disney fandom, even though I would say I was from a Disney family. We did lots of trips to Disneyland. I grew up on the West Coast, and we would go see the Disney movies. But I'm the one at 7 years old reading the Birnbaum's Guide and planning out all the restaurants that I want to go to. My parents being like, no, you're not having this much control over this vacation. Small child who's not paying for it, right? And I was like, is there something wrong with me? Like, why am I so into this? Why do I want to know so much about this? This is before blogs and YouTube and all of that. Even when I was in university, I used to hide, and high school, definitely, I would hide my Disney fandom. Where are you going on vacation? Oh, Los Angeles. It's very cool. In Hollywood. Never went to Hollywood, only went to Disneyland. I feel like now we've found our people, and whether that's our readers or whether that's great colleagues like you guys, we are all in this together, loving Disney, finding ways to express our joy and find those bits of joy in a world that is not always that joyful. So let's find something to escape. Let's find something why is life worth living? Our families and our Disney fandom, right? Isn't that the whole thing? So I'm grateful to have found my people and be able to give something back. So I hope meaningfully to the community, not just with our magazines, but all the social media, blogs that we do, creating free content every day, and then this more in-depth content for our subscribers, and being able to have a company where I have full-time employees and freelancers who I can help contribute to their livelihoods as well, while we're kind of embracing this old-fashioned medium that is so special and not something that you get to see every day anymore.
Yeah, I feel like, to Adam's point with magazines and how everything's kind of gotten more digital, I do think it's beautiful that we are investing in the creativity and people are wanting more, not AI, created content. They want to have connection, and they want connection to the things they love, written by people like you and people that have had these experiences and can share them. And it's beautiful that we can share so much of that community together, and that we all just want to feel that connection. That's what we're all craving, to the things we love and the people that can bring us that joy and make us feel that much closer to each other and to the thing that we love all together.
Yeah, and I just echoing kind of that too, and everything you said. I mean, Stephanie, like I said, we haven't known each other that long, but you already feel like family to me, honestly. And
Yeah.
even you, Danny, too. We haven't being able to spend all that much time, but I've had the fortune of meeting not just you, but the rest of the WDW magazine team, and they're all such incredible people doing such great and hard work and putting this out into the world and giving it their all. And it's not, like you said, it's not something that's going to be there and be gone in 1 second. This is something you can proudly put on your wall and proudly showcase and do things. And it's made beautiful because of the passion of what you guys have done. So just from Vanessa and I, we just want to thank you you for doing this and just being such incredible people and making like Disney magic come to life in this new way. And we're just so excited to see this out in the wild, and just wanted to say congrats on this big moment.
Thank you so much. It
And
is, yeah, it is a big month for us, and we're extremely happy to be here.
Yes,
and thank you for lending us your platform so we could talk to your audience and share some of this Disney magic.
yes, exactly. Well, it means the world, but like most importantly, I think right now, how could people get this magazine? Let's talk about that.
Well, the easiest way is just if you go to dcl-magazine.com, that'll take you right to our page that is on our website on wwmagazine.com, but it redirects so it'll show you specifically the DCL magazine stuff. If you want to find any of our other products, wwmagazine.com is where they're at. And we have two options. One is what we're calling a semi-annual membership, where you basically pay every 6 months and get an issue every 6 months. So pay, get an issue, pay, get an issue. And then we're also doing a pre-sale basically on an annual membership where you'll get both of the issues, because we're doing 2 issues a year of DCL magazine, but also our very first ever DCL magazine calendar. We've been doing a wall calendar for WDW since 2014. It sells out every single year. So this will actually be for next year. I know it's only February now, but if you let us know now, you're going to get the very best pricing. You're going to lock that in and let us know that you definitely want us to produce that calendar this year. So there's a couple different options.
That's great. Yeah. And you can check, we'll put all that in the show notes below. And also, if you use the discount code TALKING, you can save 10% off any DCL membership until March 10th. So we'll be promoting that and letting people know that they can even get on into this magazine at a discounted rate. So, I mean, there's nothing better than that. It's all good.
Thanks, guys.
But yeah, then I think before we kind of sign off, where else can people follow you, Danny and Stephanie? So like to keep up with all your work and what's going on and behind the scenes stuff?
For sure. You'll find WDW Magazine on all the major social platforms: Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Threads. We're all at WDW Magazine on all of those platforms. At DLR Magazine and at DCL Magazine on Instagram is a great place to follow along if you want all the latest updates.
Great. Well, I want to, Danny and Stephanie, I want to thank you all so much. We're so excited to see this out in the wild and continue to talk about it. And we look forward to having both of you back on to rank and review a film on our side and do that. And we'll keep this conversation going. But yeah, once again, congrats on this big moment. And we're so excited to celebrate right along with you.
Thank you so much for having us.
Can't wait for next time.
And as a reminder, Talking Disney Magic is a show that goes live every Thursday at 6 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And you can check the show notes below for, once again, all the details on DCL Magazine and WDW and DLR Magazine. And you can check a current ranking of all our films, our upcoming schedule, an invite to our Discord, and anything else you need to know in the world of Talking Disney Magic. And if you want to be a part of the show, you can send an email to talkingdisneymagic@gmail.com. And looking forward a little bit, next week, we're going to be talking about Pixar's 40th anniversary and then diving into the ocean for Finding Nemo and Finding Dory. So we'd love you all to be a part of this incredible journey. But for now, we just want to send one more sincere thanks to Stephanie and Danny. Go check out all these magazines. They're really incredible. And we hope you all have a great day and or night and a magical week. And we will see you for Pixar's 40th anniversary. Bye, everybody.
Bye.